Because I'm not buying. I mean, in Africa and South Africa, you can't buy the climate change argument. You just can't, because we are not emitting enough, nearly enough. We are not even a player in emissions. But there are clean technologies. Why are they not being pursued? Why is everything having to be run by IP holders? And IP holders get these things from innovators, from entrepreneurs, from tech guys who are junior and young and are inventing amazing things.
I'm very excited. I think the first thing that I'd like to say is that, guys, starting from the first week of September, that is the first Monday of September, we are going live. So 12 o'clock Mondays, 12 o'clock Wednesdays, 12 o'clock Fridays. So 3 times a week moving forward. You must know we own 12 o'clock noon. We're going to be live here. We're going to meet here. We're going to comment here as the episode is playing. We're all going to gather here, just like we do as chillers on Podcast and Chill. And people, you guys have been complaining all along. Smuda, when are you making this thing live so we all congregate here? Yes, we like watching at our own time, whatever, but it's always nice for us to meet at a certain time where we can comment live as the show is going on. So I'd like to promise you guys, starting from the first Monday of September, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, we are going live episodes Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And yeah, she's back. Last week's episode was quite interesting. I saw a lot of your comments there, and men were catching strays. Since MANDISA MASHEGO's back here, I'm humbled and I'm excited to have you again.
Followers, your subscribers, your people,
Yeah.
your tribe.
We're actually excited to have you here, and I think as much as we record on virtual Mkuku, it seemed like they liked you more on last week's episode here on the Hustlers Corner. So we're going to have to record more also on this side of the podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no problem.
Lovely. How have you been?
I've been fine. This fell out of my pocket earlier, remember? And I was telling you that it was given to me by a friend.
So this is real gold.
Yeah, it's real gold.
And it matches your outfit.
It's a crystal, and it's a crystal, because gold is quite dull. It's a crystal, so I normally buy crystals, like I'm sure people have noticed. I wear quite a lot of crystals. These are crystals, they're not diamonds, they're crystals. Crystals are relatively cheap because they're semi-precious gems. So gold is a metal, and it's gold, it's real gold. It's not really the same as these crystals.
Yeah.
It's gold, and it's actually very nice. I mean, it has gold dust in it.
Yeah.
It can, when
So
you
it's still
flakes
raw,
off. Yes, it's a raw. They got it obviously from a chunk, but this friend of mine sells crystals, and I thought it was quite a nice idea to bring it to the show, because you know what gold does. I mean, you have it in your phones. It's a conductor of energy. So I carry it with me when my energy feels low and flat, just to lift me up, just to get, pretty much like the sun. So yeah.
Don't say you carry it on your purse, because I'm a para.
No, it's
It's
not the kind of gold that I need to report to the
I get you. Yeah.
No, it's not like.
No, I'm saying criminals.
Yeah, but it's not the kind of gold that I had to report to the authorities. So
Okay.
a criminal getting it, I don't know.
Uzoyithengisa kuphi?
Maybe I told 1,000 for 2,000. I actually don't know what it's worth, to be honest.
I just remember some criminals who once stole. Shout out to my brother Mandoza, may so rest in peace.
I used to love Mendoza.
Me too.
In that he used to wear this like leather jacket, like a, what do you call it? Like a short bunny leather jacket.
Yeah, like
it was like burgundy and brown.
West Coast type of.
One of these big newspaper companies. And I had a friend, a public broadcaster.
Yeah.
So we used to always get invites to things, and we had a crush on Mendoza.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm oversharing.
It's okay, yeah.
And then she had tickets. She was like, I got tickets. I don't know what Mendoza was doing in Hyde Park somewhere.
Yeah.
She's like, yo, I finally got them. We became such groupies. I also once did the same thing to Uzola. Another friend of mine, we just bought a new car. We're driving to Soweto on the M1 South.
Yeah.
Mangithi Nakuzola, I have such a bad crush on him. I'm like, "Cela simlandele." She's like, "What do you mean?" Because like we've done that kind of crap before.
But you're
She's like,
young,
"What do
you
you
know
mean
when
like
you're young.
simlandele?" I was like, "Yeah, simlandele." It's like up to where? It's like up to the point where he notices we're following him, then he has to pull over. Then we pull him over, then he has to talk to us, and then we tell him, what's going on.
Yeah.
And then maybe we get a number, we'll see. But let's start. And we did. We followed him. I think he pulled over at a garage. I don't know if you'll ever remember me. Zola, if you're out there and you remember this girl chasing you in a Golf 4, a gold.
We never usually remember. And people come, you remember me, man? It was 2007. It was at a corner. Sometimes I pretend like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
how are you
You
doing?
have to.
Great to see you.
You
It's been
have
a while.
to. You have to. Otherwise, you spoil their mood.
Yes,
And
you know what I
They
mean?
felt like it was, I felt like, Mendoza probably felt harassed, but in a pleasant way, maybe. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
we were such like groupies. My pictures but it was so wrong.
But most of us abaselokishini, and obviously that quite a generation would know, most of the artists abasekhaya, they're always nice to people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
General, even namanje, I mean, most piano artists, it's mostly abantu abaphuma elokishini, and ukhule nabantu,
Yeah.
wazi abantu. You also understand when you get the love from the people that support you. So you
My
always
chai
have,
tea, sorry.
yeah, you always have time for them. That's cool. That's chai tea, right?
I make my own chai tea.
So the reason why I brought up Mandoza, I wanted to say that khona ezinye zake zatshontsha i-award laka Mandoza zayolibhalisa. I can just imagine the conversation that happens.
Because it was gold. It was said to be gold.
I-award laka Mandoza. Malini uthengisa kanjani i-award laka Mandoza? So I'm just thinking if anybody,
God.
a para comes and grabs your
Yeah,
gold.
yeah, yeah. Even now
How
they
much
could
you
do
gonna?
it.
Mina I can be like, even if this thing can be 10,000, I can probably tell him ukuthi awungazohlanya mfethu. Lento angeke ngikulinge ngisho no-2 ngale nto.
Of
Ngagayitho
course.
akusine le grand Stina lento hamba ngadile. Oh, serious. Okay, zwakale ke guy 5 thaka bamba na. How much would something like this like be worth?
I don't know. I actually didn't ask my friend because initially I didn't believe her. I was like, she was supposed to sell me some other crystal and then she sold it to somebody else. And she's a friend of mine. And she's like, you know what? I like you so much. I've got this piece of gold and we've had it for such a long time.
Wow.
Just take it. They were refreshing their stocks as well.
Okay,
So I
okay.
came in on the day when she's busy, reorganizing her crystals and her stones. And she's like, I just have this one. I had bought a silver one before.
Yeah.
Because they sell them quite reasonable.
Is it?
Yeah, I use them for grounding and all of that, clearing energy.
I get you. This is incredible, man. This is beautiful. It's always nice, man, to see raw gold, like just especially precious raw minerals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because we always just hear about them, but
It makes you feel good.
we don't really see them.
It makes you feel
There was also a trending video. I don't know which country it was. It was not Cote d'Ivoire or it was not. No man, it was not the Congo where those charging stones were like.
Probably the Congo.
Those videos
The
were
Congo,
trending.
Yeah.
I think was it cobalt or was it gold? I don't remember.
Cobalt. It could have been cobalt.
But it was like
yeah.
raw stones, and they were like electronically
Gold is a
charged.
conductor, yeah.
Like shh.
Of
When you
energy.
hlanganisa them, they go like
Then
shh.
then they give you electricity
Yeah,
immediately.
immediately.
So all you need now is to capture the electricity and put it into a cable,
Yes.
again somewhere and work. But that's the thing. This is the thing. The cause of all the problems we
Hey,
have
man.
in Africa.
And it's not the cause of the
Imagine.
This is our blessing.
Of course, it's not the
This is
cause
what
of the
God
problem.
gave
I'm
to
just saying the
us.
problem we're sitting with today is
Exactly.
caused by this guy.
Like basithathela lento lezi like njalo na unayo bafuna ukuyithatha,
Yeah, it's like also when as Africans, like we are not. I think we have, as Black people, we have sort of distanced ourselves as well from who we are. Like gold is who we are.
Yeah.
Because it's us. It's part of, we indigenously come from here. I'm
Yeah.
indigenously from Africa. Well, yeah, of course, I've got other pollutants, but indigenously mostly African. And I think my relationship with the minerals should be real, should be tangible. I think all of us should have a piece of gold or
I agree. That's what I mean.
something, like in our houses or platinum. And yeah, another friend of mine who's in mining gave me I've got another black, very heavy rock. It's titanium ore.
Okay.
So
I've never
it's,
seen
it's
titanium
iron
ore,
ore
yeah.
with titanium
Okay.
in one. Yeah, from Northwest.
Yeah.
Titanium ore is like amazing. This is what they make. I think maybe aircraft and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Aircraft, spacecraft. To make it really solid so that when it goes out into the stratosphere, it doesn't melt and whatever. So we have all of that stuff. Yeah. So I've got titanium ore, a small little rock that a friend of mine gave me because he's in mining. And yeah,
I always feel like we must participate with not only the top part of the land, but also the bottom part, the minerals.
Yeah.
That's why I mean, I do not, and I understand that by law, it's wrong to have zamazamas, right? But for me, I kind of feel we are Africans and these minerals are ours.
We should have
So,
artisanal mining and big, large scale professional mining, scale it according to the market needs and demands, but we should also be preserving. We can't exploit everything.
and
We should be
sell
preserving.
everything.
We should be preserving because these are not renewable. They build in the soil, in the earth over, I don't know, is it thousands or a million years? How long does it take for gold to form and be the gold that we need, that we use, that we love, that we want, that we, and I would imagine the earth also needs it. We can't dig all of it out. That doesn't really even make sense. Because by and large, the people who are trading in gold, what are they doing with it except for making jewelry and stuff? What's the bulk of it doing? It's sitting in safes somewhere, being preserved and stockpiled,
Yeah.
so that they can trade in the value while holding on to it,
Yeah.
creating scarcity.
And that is the
in
real
market.
wealth, though.
How do you create scarcity
and-
from
and
something you didn't create? You
With,
just dug
with
it
what
out.
with the reason why Gaddafi was killed was pretty much the same reason, right? That
Yeah.
let's create one currency in Africa
Yeah.
that will be backed up by our own
By
minerals.
our own minerals,
And
yes.
you know what I mean? And when you look at what these guys have done all over the world in just printing money and just controlling all these different
Yeah.
economies with their dollar-based
Yeah.
system, it has been ludicrous, you know? But right now when I look, Esan, this is beautiful. It's shiny. Did you watch that Gold Mafia documentary? Was it 3-part or was it 4-part?
The
3-part.
The Zimbabwean one.
Yeah.
I watched. Yeah, I think I watched maybe the first part. I watched it up to a certain point, and then it just did get to that point where I got annoyed, Nam, because I get the whole argument about how the global economy works right now. That obviously we're dollar controlled and gold based. However, we don't have any control and ownership of the actual gold, and we don't even determine the value of the gold. I mean, like, it's so ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I get it, but I firmly believe that all of us, especially our sovereign countries, as states, even Nami as a human being, as an individual, when I'm in a state of what I define as collapse in my life, I am bankrupt, I've got nowhere to stay, I'm homeless, I feel like my career is on the slump and I can't revive it, my business has just collapsed, I've got all these debts, and my life is just in a big mess. I think that's when the opportunity is just so much bigger. So
I agree.
when what transpired with Zimbabwe transpired with the land question, and they grabbed land, of course, because they also admit that they did grab land and chased away so-called former white farmers that they wanted away, and ignored the historical facts of how they even got to that situation. You know what I mean? In relation to the agreement that they signed with the UK, the Lancaster Agreement.
It's the Lancaster Agreement, right?
Yeah, which was supposed to manage. It was sort of like their land restitution program, and of course, Britain didn't meet their side of it. I'm not sure, what options we had to retaliate, but they then got to where they got. That was for me a perfect opportunity to rebuild nicely, create value for ourselves. Yes, I do understand it's difficult to fight existing currencies and the capitalist system. But I actually don't think it's as difficult as all of that. I think the difficulty is in our collective programming over the last, say, 200 years of the current capitalist framework and how it works and how the rules have been designed and created for us to operate within the rules of scarcity, holding back so that I can stockpile. And when I stockpile, I can increase the price because I can control supply and therefore control demand and then become and remain. I'm pretty sure it should be relatively easy for us within our sovereignties in Africa to actually create an economy that is operating not parallel or in any particular relationship to the mainstream capitalist economy, but something that will become a push factor. And it's simple. It starts with consumer goods, etc., etc. Yes, there are the global markets that, we feel that we cannot operate over or underneath WANA. But there are things that we can do. For instance, I don't think that the World Trade Organization's trade regulations, the global trade regulations that often all our countries are pressured to operate under, actually prevent us from creating our own products. And even if it does, there couldn't be a law that is just, that could exist, or a trade regulation globally that is just enough that could exist that could stop us from producing our own consumer goods. Precisely because we have all these minerals. And in the South African case, for instance, all mineral rights are with the state. People often confuse this mining thing. The rights to the mineral itself are with the state on behalf of us, the people.
Yeah.
And the mining companies that come in to operate, and then of course to sell what they are allowed to mine.
Yeah.
But we give them those mining rights as per, I don't know how the quantities are worked out, but as per whatever capacity you're allowed to take out and process and sell. So at the point where we have the mineral rights is exactly where the control is. And so we should be able to work within that framework and start funding our own manufacturing capacity. Manufacturing critical goods. Like, we can leave the luxury goods to the periphery for a bit. Critical goods, like infrastructure-related stuff that we need to build our infrastructure, we've got all the iron, all the ore. Nothing could stop us from putting up a railway line across Africa, as has been spoken about so many times.
So many years.
And building a transport infrastructure, because you understand the economy starts with energy, then transport, water, and of course your sanitation lines that go often along the lines of the water. So what is it that stops us from just getting to that point? Because you can't imagine taking over the capitalist system in one move. You can imagine it probably, but it's not feasible in one move, I'm saying.
Yeah, and these guys obviously
It
can't
requires
go
planning.
down without a fight.
It requires planning
They'll
and
destabilize
it
economies,
requires value. Yes, you can't do that crazy, I'm chasing you out of the land, and then you don't even have a backup plan. What was the backup plan with the land grab? As much as we want to agree with it on a sentimental notion, but come on. I mean, you see the signs of this in artisanal. You were speaking about zamazamas earlier.
Yeah.
What we call zamazamas, artisanal mining. Artisanal mining is something that comes into play in the formal economy in countries like Australia after mainstream mining has decided they've taken out as much of the bulk as what they wanted, and it's no longer feasible for them to keep on digging operationally. Then artisanal mining comes in, right? Skewed as that might be, it's something in South Africa that should have happened long ago. Australia is doing it. I know it's skewed because we're giving bulk of the minerals to the big producers who are manufacturing all these engines and everything, transport, everything that the world basically needs that requires metals, right? Keeping the West and the East more competitive than us because we can't manufacture any of these things and we don't even have IPs for a lot of the designs and the technology because that's what you need to drive your manufacturing as well. So my point is, yes, we can be radical, we can do all of these things, we can even be crazy and imagine situations that can drive us into a whirlwind of trauma. But we can also be systemic. They are artisanal miners. They are artisanal. SMMEs are artisanal. People are making products out of their kitchens and selling them in markets. I was at the Rosebank market the other day with a friend of mine. It was lovely. I hadn't been there in a while. Yes, of course, it's not like it was a while back. Things should change. But there's beautiful traders there. Some are making their own stuff. Most of them are selling, stuff that they've gotten like retro stuff. I can't remember what's the right term for it. But as much as we have an SMME market, we should be able to have a strategic economic focus. I spoke about this a little bit, I think, before, about investing in areas where land is basically for free, like in the traditional authorities.
Yeah.
And coming in with formal investment proposals, privately organized and mobilized. I'm not talking about state this, state that.
More fire. Can I please have some more
Finally.
fire? More fire. Is that more fire? Can I please have one? I'll be the most happiest man. I want the dry lemza. And let's talk about coal. Coal has been the biggest conversation over the past couple of years.
So
in
there's
South
stories
Africa.
that we've got coal reserves in the area where my parents settled, Witbank, Middlebelt area, that area, or South Africa as a whole. I can't remember where I read this, but we've got about 400 years of coal reserves. If you take the coal that we're producing now for our electricity and whatever else we're doing, I think part of it goes to the export market. Of course, it's a mineral. It's going to go to exports. I was talking to you the other day and almost shouting at you about this East and West fight, that there's no such a fight. Where Africa is concerned, from an African perspective, there's no East and West fight. There's just an African, pursuit that we need to grab by the horns. So if we can And already there are. I have a friend who's an electrical engineer who's in coal, in energy production, electricity production. There are already methods to produce electricity using coal clean.
No, can I please have the dry lemza, not the ginger? Ubuntu.
I'm pretty sure the ginger one is actually nice.
It's nice. I actually like this one, but for now I
think
feel
I
like,
should taste it.
Yeah, you
Despite
enjoy it.
despite my sugar.
But don't worry, I'm dropping yours this summer. I'm dropping the sugar
the
free.
MANDISA sugar free.
Hold on. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, sorry. Oh, we're supposed to do it
I just
together.
wanted
Let's do
us
it
to
together.
pray.
Okay, let's
You
pray.
already want
Okay,
tea.
let's pray. Let's
Go
pray.
tea, and then
Oh, tea and then oh.
Yes, tea. So that's how
I
you
still
open
did
more
it.
fire.
I
Yes,
still did it.
Yes. Cheers.
Oh, sugar, here I come. My body, forgive me.
Now I don't take sugar. The only sugar I take is from more fire. How's that?
Ooh. Oh my God.
What the khemera is?
Le yona imnandi le.
And I like that one as well. This one is more for dashing.
So apparently, thank you.
No, I hear you.
Oh, this is very nice.
Thank you.
So I understand there's about 400 years worth of coal. Like contemporary.
We've got
figures.
enough coal. They're stopping us from
there's-
using coal.
And
but
there's methods to
it's busy being
produce
exported in Richards Bay.
electricity clean
Yeah.
using coal, which means reducing the emissions to whatever is acceptable, etc. Over and above the fact that Africa has the biggest industrial country being South Africa, producing, is it less than 4% or 0.4% of global emissions? So this whole, I know, sorry, I'm taking it from coal to this conspiracy.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
This conspiracy of climate change. And I know it's real because we see the weather patterns and all of that. But here's the argument. We need to investigate the claims around bioengineering. Apparently, there's an acronym for it called HARP. Not sure what the HARP stands for, but we can look it up.
HAARP.
Yes.
Isn't that an American organization?
No. There's a I don't know whether it's the group of technologies that
Okay.
talks about all these various technologies that they use to generate certain weather patterns,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
climatic
Yeah, yeah.
conditions, change them. So that, I mean, we were right about COVID and all the crap around it, despite being narcissistically labeled. And now nobody wants to talk about the side effects and all the trauma that people are going through
Yeah.
that boosted and all of that, because then it's like you're rubbing it in their faces, and we're not. We need to learn from this lesson. So these climate change claims need to be investigated. I mean, this is not something that's happening in a vacuum. It's happening whether in space or on Earth, but these are people that are actually doing these things. There were all these claims around Iran during the Gulf War. There's many other areas where apparently this bioengineering is being weaponized against populations in the interest of whatever, whether it's bigger profits, smaller populations, more controllable populations, we don't know, but it's there, it exists, it deserves time. And I don't see mainstream media, even mentioning it. It's like they want to perpetuate this conspiracy thing. It's like when you mention certain phrases like bioengineering, all technologies, by the way, that were invented for good causes. Like if an area was depressed, it was in drought and really was depressed and needed rain, There are, I don't know whether they are responsible enough, whether there's toxic chemicals involved, but they can manipulate the clouds to produce rain and reduce drought.
That's why there's been a lot of conspiracy theories as well around some of the things that have been happening in South Africa. Some people have been saying, mhlambe, hey, ngathi time alimameli, so ngathi orkant labantu laba bathi bazama ukunihona lapha eMzansi ukuthi nizonya nini. Meaning manipulating our weather.
I mean, there've been around the world allegations of some earthquakes not having been naturally occurring.
Yeah. And apparently they can do that any part of the world.
Anywhere. So where are the people who invented those things? Why are they not speaking up? Like Robert Malone.
They get killed.
He spoke up.
Yeah, he spoke up. A lot of them.
Their
who speak up,
IPs
they
get
killed.
taken, I suppose.
But even the doctors just during COVID, I mean, over 100, not even 100. I think almost over 200 doctors died mysteriously.
Oh, wow. Globally.
Globally, yeah. Even the one doctor that we interviewed here on the Hustlers Corner during COVID in 2020.
Yes.
Guys, Google Dr. Rashid Buttar, Hustlers Corner.
He
Go
died a few months ago.
He just died. We were actually talking about him.
We were talking about him in one
Just
of the
died a month
episodes.
and a half ago, yeah.
Tragic.
And he did say, after that CNN interview that went viral, he did say, Guti, after this interview, they're going to kill me. And by the way, if I do
shame,
die,
man.
I'm not
How
going to
tragic.
kill myself. I'm not going to commit suicide.
No.
I'm not frail. I'm healthy as it comes. But if they kill me, know that I've been killed. If I die, just know that I've been killed. And he literally died hardly 2 weeks later. After that,
You see, the
CNN interview
agenda
that went
to
ra-
drive the
viral.
globe economically through the contemporary capitalist imperialist economic framework towards a them and us is very, I mean, it's very vivid, it's very clear. I mean, you have a country like South Africa that is really, really struggling, throttled, a small population of 60 million, struggling to bring its economy to employ everybody in its economy.
Yeah.
How ridiculous is that?
It's ridiculous.
When you have Indonesia, Indonesia is like the fourth biggest, most populated country in the world, I
I don't
think,
know.
or fifth.
I don't know.
So it's China, Russia, India, right? America, Indonesia,
Russia
Nigeria.
is big also. Yeah.
So I'm
India,
just
yeah.
mentioning the top most populated
Okay,
countries in the
okay.
world that I know,
Yeah.
in no particular order.
Yeah.
So India, China, Russia, the USA, Indonesia, and Nigeria.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know in
Indonesia
which
was-
order, but I think they're in the top 6, if not the top 10. Indonesia
Okay.
is one of them. About 280 million people. Apparently 17,000 islands belong to Indonesia. We know Bali, right, most of
Yeah,
the time.
very
So
popular.
that's Indonesia. So if a country, let's say a nation or people like Indonesia can pull themselves out of poverty post-war to the extent that they've done,
China did the same. Singapore did the same.
India is busy with
Singapore
that.
just did it in 20 years.
Singapore, yes.
Rwanda as well. Actually, the perfect example in our African continent is Rwanda.
So we have 60 million people, and you're telling me that we don't have people altruistic enough, because angisafuni ukuthi smart, because being smart doesn't really necessarily mean your intelligence is going to benefit anybody else. Just altruistic, like just logically kind enough. For me, altruism is just logical kindness. It's not just kindness. Because kindness sometimes can be a bit stupid. I know I'm a kind person. I can be very stupid with my kindness. But just some altruism from an economic point of view, economic players, government players, to say we can remove this unemployment. But it's almost as if there's a concerted effort to keep the inequality at the
Yeah.
level that it's at, so that relations are constantly strained. And when people are strained and they are, constantly living in a trauma or a fear, those who have a fear, those who don't have trauma, it's a trauma either way, and you traumatize each other and abuse one another. And so you want to tell me that we can't get around all these stupid conspiracies, debunk them technically, officially? Why is it only us, the so-called quacks, who are talking about this stuff? Doesn't government have a geology department? I'm pretty sure we have. We even have a state entity, a geology in South Africa, called what is it? Geoscience. So we have a geoscience agency.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
We do have, yeah.
we do.
And every country has entities like that. We have the massive telescopes, and we have people looking at weather, the climate, all of that, various expertise. Why are they not doing something about what is the real cause of all this sudden? Because I'm not buying. I mean, in Africa and South Africa, you can't buy the climate change argument. You just can't, because we are not emitting enough, nearly enough. We are not even a player in emissions. But there are clean technologies. Why are they not being pursued? Why is everything having to be run by IP holders? And IP holders get these things from innovators, from entrepreneurs, from tech guys who are junior and young and are inventing amazing things. You were just talking about that video that was going around with the two kids just literally sparking two pieces of metal together to produce a lightning bolt, which is evidence that we are in an energetic universe. You can almost manifest energy from many things.
Yeah, it's because we're in a war,
Yeah.
And just these other people will not allow that to happen. And just recently, I just heard something, and I'm like, why didn't I hear this before the John Steenhuisen interview? And I would have asked him that question. And I just heard about it on social media.
Oh, by the way, you interviewed John Steenhuisen.
Yeah, I did. And actually, some of the things, before I had a conversation with him, I gave you a call. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go speak to
Yeah.
Mr. Steenhuisen. Do you have any couple of
I
questions?
must listen to it.
Go check it out. It was a good interview. He was very kind to me. His office, they were really nice to me. Got into Parliament. It was just great to be in that building. They even show me that side that
And
that
the
got
burnt part.
Yeah, I saw that side that is burnt. But then I also got into that building and just that how many hundreds of years old building.
What's crazy about that Parliament burning thing?
Yeah.
I need to remember these guys' names, but I haven't gotten their permission to talk about them. But I think I'm gonna have to. There's a group of business people who offered to buy all the materials everything that is required to, because also there are a few companies that can renovate old buildings like that.
Yeah.
So, and to bring the expertise and pay for the materials. And then for Parliament to just pay, I don't know, maybe the labor, I don't know. Because you obviously need specialist building companies and architects and all of that.
So what did they do? They refused.
Yeah.
Why did they refuse though?
They offered this to the Speaker of Parliament. I don't know which one because they've been changing speakers a lot. So between the time the building burnt and today, there was a group of companies, I'll get the name. These, I don't know whether they're philanthropists, but one of, wealthy, representing quite wealthy companies, to say we'll give as far as we can the expertise, the specialist expertise for free. We don't, you don't have to go out into tender. Well, I suppose you can go to tender for the actual building itself, or whatever components will cost money. That's fine, but we'll give you the materials for free. You want to give out a tender for someone who's going to give the materials for free? I'm sure people fully tender. They can't breathe without them.
But Cape Town is interesting with its rules. So what I wanted to say with what I've just heard is, geez, man, I hope I wish I could have heard this before I interviewed him. I would have asked him about it.
About what? You were
It
saying?
looks like ngathi bathi bathathe imali, iDA bathathe imali eyase America through these NGOs. I think the last time we spoke about Mr. George Soros's NGOs.
Yeah.
Apparently they found some loophole in the law where they used Cape Town as collateral, just like how our South African government would. But to take American dollars, millions of dollars and millions
It's
and
called
millions.
sovereign guarantee.
Yeah, sovereign guarantee is what it's called, right?
That crazy word.
I found that out
That
just
crazy
recently.
word that we couldn't rely on during COVID.
Guys, give me factual information. Go research if you know anything about this. I'm not that informed about it. I just heard about it. I think it was last night or today. I didn't give myself some time to go research it. But I just saw two different videos from different people. I was like, is this true? I'm going to give myself some time to dig into this.
So it could very well be true, and most probably is. But there's a political party funding act that compels all political parties to declare any donation above, I think, 100,000 rand. I could be wrong on the amount, but there were various amendments in that act so that we could have transparent. You see, remember,
But you can't use a country as collateral.
no, you can't. I'm coming there.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Because they're a political party.
Yeah.
So their financial governance needs to follow regulations in their space, in the political space. So there's various acts. One of them is the Political Party Funding Act that governs this. How do you receive money? Because remember before, they could get money in secrecy. So that money could have been laundered straight from National Treasury or Provincial Treasury directly into a political party's account, and you couldn't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
So now you need to, but I don't know how it's going to work, because it's not like they account to people, they account to themselves in Parliament. So their financial statements are submitted to IEC, to the legislature first, who then to IEC, because remember that money comes through IEC.
Yeah.
Through the Electoral Act, because it has to come through some act. Now, NGOs, okay, so that's one discussion. We need to tie them together afterwards. That's the one aspect. Then the NGOs. NGOs have been, Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation is right down the road. All these imperialist run ones, globalist run ones,
Of open society.
as long as it's a non-profit company,
Yeah.
they channel a lot of money through our governments already that you don't know about. So if DA has taken money, it would be illegal in as far as if DA is not one, reporting it publicly and publicly disclosing. Two, if that foundation doesn't have a clause that says they can fund parties. And maybe other components as well could come into play. But those are the two that I can think of off the top of my head. That's the second component, right? Then if those two things, at least as far as I know, are not upstanding, then there's a problem. But then there's another component that I was alluding to earlier. These NGOs already fund your government. Go to any department. Department of Health would be a good one. Department of Social Development would be another good one. Department of Education would be another good one. Start nationally and maybe go to the provinces and ask them, have you received any donations through a Public Access of Information Act regulation that gives you the right, because the Constitution guarantees your right to have access to information from government that you need. So use that act and you ask, maybe write a letter to the minister's office and say, I want to know how much money you've received in this and that financial year or this quarter of the financial year from not for profit public benefit organizations or some other entity like that, NGO, that funded you from domestically in Africa or anywhere around the world that has funded, and which programs have they funded. You'll be shocked. So that's why I wanted to answer it that way.
It's very interesting, but I mean, anyway, you guys will do the research and I'll go dig down in it. I see you brought some books, interesting books.
Yeah.
And I was asking you if you've read all of them, and you told me you read only this one, and it was a while ago.
I'm reading this one now.
Okay, tell us about it. What is
Paradise by Kevin Rushby. It's basically it literally says a history of the idea that rules the world. How all of us have got this thing about paradise, whether it's heaven or paradise where Adam and Eve came from a Christian perspective. But this guy is really going into the concept of the cosmos, philosophy, all centered around Pythagoras, whom I know you have a lot of emotion around. And so I think I've just started reading it. I think I'm like finished. I think I'm on chapter 2 or something.
Okay.
So I'm not yet fully equipped to speak to it, but because I'm a proponent of Pythagoras and all of that, I really wanted to read it because I wanted to get a deeper understanding of the era in which Pythagoras formulated his famous Pythagoras theory in geometry.
But we all know that's not his theory, but that's what we're taught anyways. We all
Yep.
know what they stole all of those
But
books
now,
from.
when you go to this history,
Yeah.
and I'm surprised, that's where a lot of these questions are unearthed about when he moved from was it Greece or wherever with his parents, with his father, and they moved into another area closer to the Middle East, and when he started encountering the indigenous, and I think at some point they passed through Egypt as well, and all of that, and for me it's
They stole the books in Egypt.
it's so interesting how all of
Let me
that
come
is
in
now
there.
coming
Go
out.
read a book called A Stolen Legacy by George G. James. He breaks it down nicely. Sorry to disturb you. Continue.
George G. James.
Yeah.
Ngicela uyibhale on the
A
inside.
Stolen Legacy. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
So but that's exactly what I'm uncovering, right? So it's a book that I'd encourage people to read because the author, funny enough, yes, of course, is a Pythagoras fan, but unknowingly here and there he gives you snippets of information that tells you that he's basically concurring with the fact that Pythagoras found his geometrical theories and the rest of it, the philosophy, the concept of the cosmos and, vibrations in the universe and the movement of energy, etc., and how everything in the cosmos balances while in the air, that those concepts are not his originally. I'm hoping and praying that as I delve deeper into it, it tells the truth a lot more, instead of diplomatically hiding it. But yeah, that's very interesting.
It says, sorry, continue.
No, yeah.
I want to give him a bit of the synopsis at the
Yeah.
back. The path to heaven and hell, 3,000 years of paradise seeking. Post September 11, I wanted to know more about this curious, blissful place that could encompass vastly different dreams. I wanted to know where my own ideals come from and those supposedly martyred killers, and where, if at all, they connected. Paradise uncovers the history of an idea, and in doing so reveals some of the key events and characters that have shaped our notions of perfect happiness. From its earliest origins via an assortment of cataclysmic events and a vast array of characters, particularly from within Christian and Islamic cultures, Kevin Rushby traces one of the most powerful human motivators. Here's the ambition that gave rise to the delights of botanic gardens and utopian dreams, yet also seeded in the horrors of the Holocaust and modern religious extremism. Why, after almost 3,000 years of divine quest for paradise and for the perfectibility of this world, do we stand on the brink of a war between civilizations and ecological meltdown? Rajbi perspectively notes the link between the ideal of perfection and reality of violence. He traces an illuminating continuity, impressive historical detail, and interludes of fine travel writing, enjoyable and informative. I can't wait to check this one out. Okay.
It's a nice read. It's a very light read.
Lovely.
It just requires time. But yeah, I want to come to the point where there's some admission there, because it's already starting to show that there's some admission to Pythagoras having found the so-called Pythagoras theorem and then just I don't know how he basically manipulated it to come to the theory that we all study in geometry as the Pythagoras theory, but that it's not his theory.
It's not.
So that's so I'm gonna.
By Shisa Nabaqat library of Alexander. They stole a lot of books, but a lot of books also they burned with the library.
But you know that they burnt most structures across Africa, and also what made it successful for the colonial, the Western, and I suppose also the Roman colonial conquest is that a lot of our structures were biodegradable and not very heavy on steel and metals, right? So, because we're biodegradable people as Africans, we believe in the cycle of life. So, we build our houses in a biodegradable way. When we move for whatever reason, change of weather patterns or whatever reason that makes us move, when we leave that area, those structures can either be used by others if they're still, in good standing, or they can just be collapsed into the earth and they go and biodegrade. Because there's straw, there's mud, there's, if there's steel, there's steel. There's nothing synthetic. There's wood,
But look at what we did to the pyramids.
and what we use to tie. We processed metals, of course, that's a fact, but we also used a lot from nature in terms of the trees and plants because they're biodegradable, and when they die they go back and re-nourish the soil, and not much has been lost, and so humanity can continue to enjoy the same quality.
Laws athile ayenze lento
Do you
agenda
think it's still
bamfunela
him, or
lapha
it's a
that's it.
poor version of a
Other people
clone?
say so. It's
Like
a
a
clone. Yeah, a lot
Lockdown.
Kanti, what's wrong? What happened?
No,
Program is
I
going to
saw a
employ
post that
people.
where
gonna employ
where's
people.
the Gauteng government ever employed people?
I think I need to dig down
except for
deeper
those
and
COSATU
understand it.
employees, nama ANC employees actually government abamosha yonke into with no skills.
We just digress. Best piece of
I'm
America,
sorry.
mara sibuye
No,
ngalena,
best
that's
busy.
fine.
No, best busy ngomngani wakho ulo. UDA. Best busy ngoStienezen.
So Stienezen
I want us to
umngani
go
wami
back
manje.
there. Oh, sorry,
But
sorry.
we're just saying ubhuti
Okay,
Panyaza umngani
sorry,
wami.
sorry.
Besikhuluma
No. I don't know.
ngoBiden.
You've got all these political friends. I don't really.
Which
so
friends,
They're
though?
your friends. I'm
But
sure
that-
people are
that-
saying how so Kuruma no Stienezen.
But I'm just
Why
interviewing.
Kuruma? You know how
I remember
how people are.
when me and Penyo interviewed Mr. Ents Rhodes from
From
AfriForum.
Afriforum. I know, like it's so
I'm like,
wrong.
but guys, like,
he's a person.
You
Somebody
know what
must
I mean?
talk to him.
And we're a platform.
We must
speak
talk to
everybody.
everybody.
Exactly.
Also, you can't have, okay, yeah, there are certain people that you'll talk to, I won't be around.
But what type
So
of a
you must
mindset is
talk-
that?
you-
Where,
but I won't talk to so and so.
no, I don't roll like that. Even if ngaswine or anything, when it comes to matters that are for the country or that matter, I'm a podcaster. I must speak to people, give them their chance to air their views. You know what I mean?
And sometimes you bring the worst of people, and it's okay. Sometimes sometimes you bring the best of people, and it's okay.
but
It's
let's-
really, really. That's our judgment now, Con. It's my judgment, which is toxic and wrong of me to say the worst of people. There's no such. But saying whatever I'm thinking while I'm sitting there on my keyboard, thinking, "I lo muntu loya better." Why?
But then, and there's people who feel like
It's
that right
called
now.
pluralism. Yes.
But let's listen to what people have to say.
We have to.
Noma
So,
singavumelani
so
now.
what you need to do with Ustienezen, right?
Yeah.
You need to bring him back for like a 10-minute conversation and just ask him that one question and quote the PIA Act, the Public Access of Information Act, and say to him, please, can you share with us all your funding since you have been the head of the DA? He has to by law.
We did speak about political party funding, but I didn't go deeper. I didn't poke him more on it.
Sekujukuthi to follow up on
Yeah.
this question,
Yeah.
ukuthi lama NGOs, what are their intentions? I mean, a lot of them come with prescribed conditions. So when they give money to government, they'll say, we represent this and that ethos and ideology as a non-profit entity. And in terms of the good work that we do in various communities or countries, if they're big and they're global. And so we'll give you 10 million US dollars, but they'll also be very specific. So it's conditional. So there are these conditions, these prescriptions. This money must be spent on ABC. And then they also prescribe what it must not be spent on.
Get you.
Should you spend this money on these exclusions, you're out.
I get you.
They might even say you must vaccinate your people
I get
with this vaccine. Most of them are from big pharma, big tech, big fin, all the big globalized sectors.
Do you think all these big billions of dollars that came in during 2020, they came with those conditions? The vex conditions.
Firstly, during that time, there was no law. All laws were collapsed because we are under emergency law, which is the thieving time.
So who was running things?
Well,
I'm
the
saying
state.
the World Health Organization.
Yeah. They were then deciding, okay, if we give you funding to go, to yeah, Kumbula must. There were some monies that were allegedly donated during
Yeah.
that time
Yeah.
for public, bargaining, protective equipment or
PPE.
gear. Yeah. And I think vaccines. There's some vaccines that were donated. I like how Nigeria dealt with all those donated
Yeah.
vaccines, though.
Even Museveni.
Yeah, no, Nigeria just lost them. One batch got lost. They're like, hey, boo, how far are you? How far are you? So, they had to give stats.
Yeah.
They eventually got 500 million people.
Oh,
I
is it?
always forget to celebrate that. No. Go and research it anyway. They eventually got 500 million people around the world. There's close to, 8 billion of us?
Sure.
So it's a victory, you know what I mean? They didn't get all of us. Look, 500 million is a lot.
It's a lot of people, yeah.
But they didn't get all of us. Anyway, so yeah, they basically would give money and say, give us some report update within Jove Abangaki. And then Nigeria, I think like 3 times, I can't remember where I read this article. Nigeria was like, our country, shithole African country. Sorry for that. Beep.
Can't say that.
I know. But that's what Trump
that's
said.
how Trump. Okay. I
No,
understand.
but so we have a lot of rampant crime here. Nama hijackings, the whole hijacking and
The pirates, right?
yeah.
I'm gonna get into this one. That
So
one I
they
wanted
said one ship got hijacked. Then this guy sent another batch. But yeah, our guys are on the ground. They misdirected the load. So we've been looking for it for a month. There was one load, like literally, they even kept on giving updates. Say by Tracy. Eventually, when they found it, they said all the stuff expired.
Get fine and that's
That
what
was
happened.
Nigeria. Then
Marnala.
the third batch, Gobanenyi batch. So all
Yeah.
their batches kept on getting missing in
Oh, the
action.
men's are amabomu, ne?
Because they saw I was Tanzania, which if you fight back, bakubulala.
Yeah.
Because they
And
killed him.
Haiti as well,
They
right?
killed him and replaced him with some woman there who just agreed to everything.
Ish, guys.
Are you trying to tell me she didn't have money in the sofa also given to her?
The 1% and the rest of us, a political economy of dominant ownership. I want us to clean up with this one because this one speaks
Yeah.
to my heart, emotional
Yeah.
intelligence. So this one is the 1% and the rest of us. A political economy of dominant ownership. Check this one out, guys. Usis MANDISA brought us this one as well to recommend for you. I'll read it quickly. Tim Dimuzio, he debunks the radically antisocial belief that wealth is the sole result of individual efforts and talents. His contribution is novel and original, but it is also a significant part of a growing clamor of change. And it says here, while the Occupy movement faces many strategic and organizational challenges, one of its major accomplishments has been to draw attention to the massive disparity of income, wealth, and privilege held by the 1% of the population
Yep.
in nations across the world. In the 1% and the rest of us, Tim Dimuzio explores what it means to be part of a socio-economic order presided over by the super rich and their political servants, incorporating provocative and original arguments about philanthropy, social wealth, and the political role of the super rich. Dimuzio reveals how the 1% are creating a world unto themselves in which the accumulation of ever more money is really a symbolic drive to control society and the natural environment. Have you read this one?
Yeah, long ago. I've had it for a while, for some years. I can't remember when it was actually published. When I buy books, I always gift myself with them. I bought it in 2015 and read it. When was it published? It was published in 20. Wow, this was, I think, I suppose, the second year. It was published in 2015. I bought it the year it was published. And isn't it amazing? A lot of the stuff that's in here, it describes basically the conglomeration of imperialism, how now we have these globalists who have individual power and have amassed the world's largest reserves to their individual private rights ownership, and how basically we've all been dispossessed economically, and whether we like it or not. And COVID was just an epicenter or like climax of the strategy of the 1% to keep holding on to their reserves when they basically through procurement and the extracts and quotes and reference points because this guy is a psychologist.
This one is by Daniel Coleman, right? Emotion that plays a major role in thought, decision making, and
Yeah.
self awareness, impulse, motivation, empathy.
This is the one book that if I'm struggling with my confidence levels, if I'm struggling with self esteem, if I'm struggling with maybe self perception, how I view myself in relation to the world or to others or my surroundings, a lot of I find myself, giving more than, receiving. I find myself doing things for people and other situations that really drain me, and I benefit very little from those things. I find myself struggling with love. I find myself struggling with how to engage with love in relationships with others. I find myself struggling with different types of love. I find myself like, and you may have hidden traumas, but reading this book almost like helps you to self-discover,
I get you.
self-heal. And then it also helps, I think somebody like me especially, and there are many people who can relate, I don't know, it helped me with understanding that intelligence, my technical intelligence, my ability to understand intellectually and logically certain things, my ability to be rational, my ability to learn fast technical information, apply to stuff, my meritocracy, my ability to do things is actually much less important than how I do those things,
I get you.
when I do them, who I do them with, to what extent I contribute towards doing things, solving problems, finding solutions, etc. It's yeah, I think if there's one book that I swear by, you're like emotional intelligence, and this is the first edition, so I think it does have a follow up. Goldman does have a follow up to this one, but this was the very first edition. So when I lost my first copy, I can't remember, somebody, I think somebody took it, where I had all these markings and all these critical learning areas that were very important to my own development. I was in my 20s. No one recommended it to me. I had a habit of going to bookshops when I
Yeah.
was young, from when I was in school, really. Of when I had a problem, I had to go to the library. I even raised my child that way.
Part one, he talks about the emotional brain. What are emotions for? The anatomy of an emotional hijacking. Part two, he talks about the nature of emotional intelligence. When smart is dumb. Know thyself. Passion's slaves. The master aptitude, the roots of empathy, the social arts. Part three, he speaks about emotional intelligence applied, intimate enemies, managing with heart, mind, and medicine. And the last part, which is part four, the windows of opportunity, the family crucible, the trauma and emotional relearning, which we always talk about. The temperament is not destiny. I'm looking forward to
So you
check.
see, the parts really had a compared to anger, and anger, how often people
side.
Both. I mean, what, vibrant, dynamic industry out of it. It could do so much for our levels of happiness,
Yeah.
our well-being. You don't have to believe in what Credo Mutwa was explaining.
Yeah, because the great Credo Mutwa,
Astrologically.
he teaches us that Inzalo Elanga is the holiest place in the continent.
Probably in the world, I would argue. I
Yeah.
mean, of course, many places will argue because there's a tourism competition.
Yeah.
And building a tourism product that could coexist ecologically and spiritually, and commercially and economically around our assets, our natural assets, and what they do for us spiritually, would just bring about so much, not just economic and commercial success in the sector, but create a lot more happier people, a lot more aligned people who understand self-healing, who understand spiritual connection. It could just do wonders. So I think we just need to be patient with ourselves. I think the concept did draw a lot of attention, by the way.
Yeah, we did a great job last year. A lot of people are interested.
I saw a lot of government people wanting to, now they want to emulate it, but they don't know how to. And then and I'm just thinking, but you've got the asset. It's a natural asset. There's still that property development component because, people need to go there all
I see
around
it as
the
our
year.
own Mecca, eh?
It's a
I'm
Mecca.
seeing millions of black people
It's a
from
Mecca,
all over
but
the
we need to
continent.
visit it all the time
All the
because
time,
it's
yeah.
still an amazing space. We can have regular tours. It doesn't have to be, that can just be the New Year celebration.
I get you.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
New Year celebration can even move a bit far away from the concept if it wants on the fun side, but and have that pilgrimage that various people will do, whether it's Omkhulu Nsingiza, because he's basically made it popular and reminded everybody about how amazing this knowledge was, and we can have various groupings coming to honor the space. You don't have to believe in a certain thing or be a certain religion and be inclined in a certain. I just think that the tourism sector,
Such a cool place.
it invites
It's beautiful.
everyone.
It's beautiful.
Umoya wakhona, that oxygen. It feels like you're on the Drakensberg.
Sure.
Have you felt that? Not you said
Sure.
Drakensberg, not you at one of the, like you had Didima.
Yes.
And there's this cold breeze of oxygen, fresh, and then there's these eagles flying around.
that
And
place.
that breeze is not cold, it's just cool and proper and right. But then there's also the investment that needs to go into the place so
Yeah.
that we can have proper walkway. Because we struggled a lot with the movement up that
Yeah.
hill. There's a lot of, there's Sandby. We need to engage Sandby. We really need to engage Sandby. If Pumalanga Tourism want to come on board, they really need to come on board. As many partners want to come on board as possible should come on board and make that experience wonderful. Camping people should come on board. You can have camping, unless it rains, and it is during a very rainy season. But I think in future years to come, it will really grow. For now, it will remain as basic, as it was. But there are many partners that showed an interest. The guy from the gorge, the famous gorge in the Sabi area.
No.
It's a big tourist attraction in
Okay,
Mpumalanga.
okay.
Run and owned by a black guy.
Okay.
And he wanted to partner. I don't know at what level. But I just think partners need to broaden their mind.
I get you.
They need to broaden their horizon around
Yes,
this.
yes.
Because yes, it's a spiritual pilgrimage tour, but it does have a great potential, not just for us, but for all partners that come on board to actually create a sustainable tourism product.
Yes, I get you.
Sustainable, where you don't just go on the 23rd or on a specific day, where the state has a role to play through SANBI and the people who are running such assets on behalf of the state, of course, on behalf of us, the people, some infrastructure upgrades. There's just a lot of potential.
If you didn't get a chance to check it out last year, I'll put a link in the description that'll take you to a video of our experience that we had last year. It was really, really beautiful. Thokozani, Makanye, Magwande, Maglunge, Magpope, Magube Mocha, Siyancanywa, siyabonga ukuthi bendathi namhlanje. It's about to be Women's Month. Anything that is happening over the next couple of weeks on your side?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard few people talking about tea parties and stuff. I don't know. I've said this many times. The whole Women's Month thing. In May, it's the International Women's Day. In August, it's the South African one. I don't know. Like, we give birth to people on Earth and we have months and days. I know I sound like I'm maybe jaded or something. Maybe I am. I don't know. But my thing is, can we get over this Women's Day, Women's Month? and just as women be part of this earth. Just specialist campaigners for women's issues.
I get you.
In women's issues is this economy. We need to really wrestle this economy out of the hands of men, whether they are white or black. My thing is, let's stop having the months and the days. Let's do economic, beautiful stuff. I mean, it's we've got energy, we've got a whole lot of stuff going on. But we are just not shifting the tide as women. Constantly crying and complaining, hey, Women's Month, come and talk. I've got nothing to say. I am here to contest the space, Nabantu besilisa. And I know that sounds horrible, but yes, in contestation, we collaborate. And if men don't want to collaborate and they want to continue this 300-year dominance, then it's clear we need to contest. Because unfunu collaborators, so I mean, it's like with our beautiful ideas and our capacity and our incapacity to be corrupt. Women have been biologically proven to be very difficult to corrupt. When they eventually become corrupt, they become extremely corrupt because we're super smart. But we are generally not. We are nurturers. We take care. We give birth. So the way you guys mine umhlaba, it's the same shit you're doing to us. Nyaskupa. Nyaskupa. Like literally, we need to pop those babies out, raise them, do everything, and still be good to you, and still be a shoulder for you to cry on. No, we need shoulders to cry on. So for me, this Women's Month, and then work with the people I'm working with to push other things so that next year, this time we're not moaning like this. We deliver a more popularizing Inzalo Yelanga and all these products and all these amazing things that we need to do, that we are doing, that it grows and blossoms. That's the only Women's Month for me. Rise and sparkle, grow and blossom, something like that. You know what I mean?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is MANDISA MASHEGO. I'm looking forward to, we said we're going to have the text conversation. No, sis Natasha. You're going to bring Natasha, right?
I'm going to bring Natasha Kulu. I can't get hold of her, but I'm going to find a Natasha. Find me. Let's find each other.
So the text conversation is coming, and the Constitution, we've been promising the Constitution conversation. There's a lot to learn on the South African Constitution. I think we're going to have that one as well.
Yep.
All
I
right.
mean, people can read and can get audiobooks, but it's okay. We can also do it.
All right. Have a great week. We'll see you guys on the next video. Danko!